Hello and welcome to Politics. Today I am Farrukh Pitafi. Viewers, once again we have to talk about Pakistan's politics. It is important because it seems that our political class, mostly opposition, is a victim of some attack of incoherence. I am saying this because it seems that PDM, once deemed as the biggest challenge to the democratically elected government, seems to be fighting among themselves. That is not all. It seems that PML and its leading light is also having some kind of crisis of direction or crisis of faith. It seems that there are two flanks. One is led by Maryam Nawaz, whose picture you can see it right now on television, and the other one, which is actually directed by the president of party, Shehbaz Sharif. But whosoever you ask, in the end we are told that it is Nawaz Sharif who is going to actually set the tone or direction of the party. That said, there must be some use of the president of the party, who is also the opposition leader. And Shehbaz Sharif has repeatedly said that there should be a charter of economy, there should be inter-institutional dialogue, and that dialogue should actually define the future of the country. All political parties, all stakeholders should come together and chart a future course. That said, the word has it that Mir Nawaz Sharif, his elder brother, but actually the founder of the party, actually plans to review that idea. And while that is going on, the government of Pakistan is preparing to present a budget, and it has been said and it has been pointed out that the collections this year have been good. And the finance minister was speaking yesterday. He said that they are actually working on an inclusive and sustainable economy and growth. That is heartening to hear. Let us hope in coming days we see the translation of that as well. But where does that leave us? When you look at the divided opposition, and of course then there seems to be some kind of divisions within PTI, the ruling party as well. We have seen the kind of interactions that have been going on between Tareen Group and Prime Minister's advisor on accountability. We are going to talk about all these matters and more, and of all things we are going to talk about the importance and practicability of this idea that there should be a dialogue between institutions. Let me introduce the guest I've got. One guest has arrived, one is arriving at this moment. So let me begin by introducing the guest I have on Skype. On Skype we are joined by Rana Ihsan Afzal Khan Sahab, who is leader of Pakistan Muslim League Nawaz, a young leader but a very bright one. Then we are joined by Ahmad Kareem Kundi Sahab, who is representing Pakistan People's Party on this panel. Then we have in the studio with us Fareed Rais, who is a journalist, anchor and whatnot. Fareed, thank you very much for being part of the program. And just joining us, Barrister Abdullah Mumtaz Kalu, who is going to actually represent Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf. Barrister Sahab, thank you very much for your participation and your time as well. Let me start with Fareed Rais. Fareed, at this moment, this idea of grand national dialogue, it is not a new one. Do you think that there is any substance to it?
Actually, Shehbaz Sharif is trying to reinstate and put the things back together within the PDM, as the PDM was being criticized. And the recent past we saw what the moves the PDM made, the division in the PDM, and after the Senate elections, after the leader of the opposition in the Senate, whatever came into being, it was a gesture that the PDM has lost its crown. But after coming back to Mr. Shehbaz Sharif Saab, and when he is on nowadays a bail and meeting with different opposition parties, it is a very good thing that, okay, he is on a very good track to combine to reinstate all the opposition parties, because in the absence of an opposition, the government is free to make any kind of a move. And if there is a government, a strong opposition, as if we take the example in the PMLN government, that in 2013 to 2018, at that time the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf played a role of an opposition, and with that thing, there is always a pressure mounted on the government also to move in the right direction.
But let me take you a little bit back in time, and let me talk about the idea that was repeatedly given by former Chief Justice, who was Chief Justice at that time, and Chairman Senate Raza Rabbani. At that time he was the Chairman Senate. All of these gentlemen actually said that in Pakistan, democracy that is actually evolving from a dictatorship into a democracy. 13 years ago, Pakistan was under military rule, right? Because of that, there is need for all institutions to actually engage in a dialogue. Do you think that that is a feasible idea?
I believe in this thing, there is always a possibility of betterment when you come into a dialogue. And in the absence of a dialogue, there is no solution, because all the solution, all the conflicts which ever been occurred in the history. And if you talk about Pakistan, I believe that dialogue, yes, there should be a dialogue if there is a need for the dialogue. As compared to the political parties or the other institutions, one should sit together. And we should seek some kind of a solution from the dialogue.
Barrister Saab, with your permission, because you joined us late and you're also representing the government, let me bring in first the opposition side. Rana Ehsan Afzal Khan Sahab, do you think that this idea is feasible at all? I don't see there is any kind of infrastructure to engage in such kind of dialogue. There is a parliament takes care of the inter-political dialogue, but how would you actually bring in the judiciary and other institutions to this forum? Please go ahead.
I think the infrastructure is there. Parliament is the most, the best forum for any sort of debate amongst all political parties. And I think that is the forum which should be used, and for anything, even for, if you want to bring in election reforms, if you want to do anything, it is the parliament which has to be done. But, and from parliament, we can obviously bring about a forum where you can decide how to bring in greater reforms, when you could include the judiciary or other institutes of the country.
Okay. So how do you actually bring all those institutions to the floor of the parliament? They cannot be actually permanent representatives. They can't have their permanent representatives there. So how exactly?
So actually, in the parliament you have these committees, and in the committees you can invite these guests. And from whatever forum where you want to bring in all these, the rest of the institutions, the parliament is the forum which decides how and how to move forward.
Okay, but let me remind you who are we talking about. The former Chief Justice, actually, when he talked about this, and also Raza Rabbani Sahab, the purview was quite interesting. One, the politicians across the board, then two, media, three, judiciary, then army, the armed forces actually, and then intelligence agencies. Do you think that there is any standing committee or any parliamentary committee that can take care of all of these institutions and bring them under one roof simultaneously?
Right now there is no such forum. What I am suggesting is that, the beginning should be the parliament. I mean, the debate should begin over there, and whatever form it takes has to be decided through the parliament.
Right, actually warmed the cockles of my heart, because there were attempts to bring your party into a negotiation on electoral reform, and your party has not been cooperating. But let me first bring in Kundi Sahab. Kundi Sahab, your party's take on the idea of a grand national dialogue.
Yes, first of all, Farrukh Sahab, I am really thankful for inviting me on such an important subject. And you have earlier mentioned that dialogue amongst the institution. As my other colleagues said, that the parliament is the appropriate forum. But first of all, you must build the consensus among the political parties that we have to start this dialogue. And Parliament is basically a stage, and we have on a background we have a standing committees. Otherwise, we can make a special committee also on this inter-institutional dialogue. It is not a difficult job, but first of all, political parties must start debates in the Parliament, and they must build the consensus. Then it's not a difficult job to bring all the representation of the institution, as you have earlier mentioned, either that is judiciary, either that is the media or armed forces. There are a number of standing committees we have. We can invite them. We can develop we can have a brainstorming in these committees, because this is a very important, and it is the dire need of the time to bring some consensus among the institutions. Because in Pakistan, it is very practical that democracy is up till now is a fragile. We need some consensus among the institutions, and we must discuss the mandate of the institution, which is frankly speaking, we have seen a number of times that number of institutions are overstepping from their mandate, and that must be discussed, and the appropriate forum is the Parliament.
Sorry, Barrister Sahab. Kundi Sahab, with due respect, you are right now talking about other institutions, but first take a look at the political parties. I mean, is it a secret what your party is going through in PDM? The way you have been cold-shouldered, you have been given show cause notice, and I'm talking about people who are sitting on the same side of the bench, coming together and bringing the opposition and treasury benches. Do you think it will be easy? Forget about other institutions.
Farrukh sir, you are absolutely right. Developing consensus among the political parties is not an easy job. And as far as the PDM is concerned, it is really an unfortunate. We are unlucky that we didn't travel, we didn't struggle. We have struggled for 2 years or like that, but unfortunately now we have distance apart. But as far as People's Party is concerned, we can proudly claim that in Pakistan, People's Party is the only party who has shown the political consensus. If I am not wrong, I can proudly claim that the 18th Amendment is the reflection of the political consensus which was built by the Pakistan People's Party, and we have arranged that arrangements in the
I'm glad that you actually mentioned 18th Amendment. That is a good example, but that is also a contentious point. I'm going to come back to you, sir. Let me actually go to our guest in the studio, Barrister Saab. I wanted you to actually hear all the sides before giving us your parties and your opinion as well. Is there a possibility that you can actually go for an interinstitutional and a grand national dialogue? And when it comes to reaching across the aisle, are you even capable of doing that?
Mr. Pitafi Sahab, firstly, thank you for inviting me on your studio on this show. Yeah. And I have to say that the notion of a grand national dialogue, it's a wonderful thing.
At this moment, it is grand national dialogue.
Yes,
not national.
Exactly. Grand national dialogue, it's a wonderful thing. But as far as the opposition is concerned, this is a disparate group of 11 different parties, ideologically apart. Okay. And in one of the parties, you've got two different wings. You've got one wing that wishes to play by the rules. There's another wing that wishes to overhaul the entire system. As far as our government is concerned, our government is happy to sit with the opposition in Parliament and discuss issues such as how to develop the economy, how to develop, progress upon the National Action Plan, environmental initiatives, the foreign policy initiatives. But if the opposition is of the view that the dialogue will help them to compromise the accountability perspective of our government, they are wrong, they are gravely mistaken, because Imran Khan Sahib, our Prime Minister, has promised the people of Pakistan in his manifesto, in which he received 17 million votes, that he will ensure that justice will prevail in Pakistan.
Right, but that might be actually answer of my second part. But my first part is still there. Grand National Dialogue is not merely going to be a dialogue between political parties as it was introduced as an idea, but all the stakeholders. Do you think that all those stakeholders can be brought under one roof And your party will be interested in that idea? Because, of course, in this program, I get your guests, your party representation, who keep on complaining about judiciary, or for that matter, lawmaking, or various aspects of the national structure. So, do you think that that is a possibility at all?
Pitafi Sahab, politics is the art of the possible. And
Yeah,
you'll be
but
amazed.
it doesn't
at-
actually sound great coming from your side. I mean, I can trust People's Party when it says that politics is the art of the possible, because they have been bringing people together. When did you last try?
Pitafi Sahab, we've been trying continuously from day one. But
Okay.
you have to understand, from the government's perspective, we are faced with an opposition that refuses to acknowledge Prime Minister Imran Khan's government as being the legitimate government of Pakistan. You've got Bilawal Zardari, who in his inaugural speech called out Prime Minister Khan as Prime Minister-select.
Yeah, you
selected
don't have
Prime
to
Minister.
actually repeat
So,
what he said.
I'm just saying this is the temperature that my
But
party
is it not true that you were doing the same thing when you were in opposition?
That's not correct. When PTI was in the opposition, we were bringing out people's issues. For example, Panama, we took up the issue.
No, that
Yes.
kudos to you. That was a great
Yes.
accomplishment. Eventually, you made to it. But first came the 4 months long the sit-in in Islamabad.
Yes.
And the entire premise was actually built on one thing,
Really?
that the government at that time was not legitimate. Is that not true?
Yes, and
So that keeps on happening.
I will explain why. The preface to that dharna, 126th-day dharna, was that Prime Minister Imran Khan at that time had asked the PMLN government to open 4 seats. And,
but
and-
let us not go
yes.
into the longish
And- yes.
background, but I understand what you're saying. My only humble submission is, your sit-in did not actually stop the government of the time to reach across the aisle and reach to you.
Yes.
So there is a possibility
And-
that maybe you can do it, despite you, the opposition actually denying the legitimacy of your government.
Pitafi Sahab, PTI is a party that did end its 126th-day dharna when the Peshawar APS attack happened.
Right.
For the greater national objective, we swallowed the bitter pill and we came and sat down with the PML government. I would like to repeat on open television to the opposition parties, the government is ready to sit down with you and discuss initiatives that will help
I'll love
bring
it if
Pakistan.
it comes from one of the party leaders as well. For example, the Prime Minister, for that matter, your CM, right? If that happens on live TV, I will be celebrating, I tell you. But Farid Saab, again, coming to the other aspects of political dimension, the divides within PMLN, do you think that they are going to actually make the party at all relevant? Because it seems that Maryam Nawaz, whatever, brand she builds, Shehbaz Sharif comes out and totally undermines it. And then Shehbaz Sharif actually starts some kind of initiative, and then Maryam Nawaz or Shahid Khaqan Abbasi or Maryam Aurangzeb come out and they start undermining the other side. So how exactly is the party going to function in the electoral process?
Beside all these things, and I have been hearing this thing for a very long time, that there is always a sheen out of the noon, and there will be a Shehbaz group within the Nawaz group, and all those things. But these are all these things are just the words. It has been
No, but hang on. You're saying that this prediction might not be true, that Shehbaz will separate his base from PMLN.
No, I'm
That
not-
is the worst part.
I'm not saying
They are
that.
going to stay together
I'm not
and
saying
keep on undermining each
I'm
other.
not saying this thing, but there is always a thing in the PMLN that they are playing the good cop and the bad cop,
Okay.
and there is always an aggressive approach. There are some few of them who are adopting the aggressive approach, and when it comes to Shehbaz Sahab, he is always on a side that there should be dialogue. He is always of the opinion, and nowadays he has reiterated in the past also, and now also he has also once again reiterated that there needs to be a new social contract. So He is emphasizing on the new social contract also.
Do you know, social contract would mean a new constitution.
Yes.
That is not going to happen.
So
I've never, I mean,
so this is the thing.
Zall Haq to General Pervez Musharraf, everyone tried to do away with 73 constitution. Never happened. But here's the point.
This is the point that Shahbaz Sahib is reiterating again and again.
Yeah, but I wish they would have thought of it 20 years ago when they first came to 30 years ago. But you are saying that there is no conflict. Let me qualify, give you two examples. NA 120, erstwhile NA 128, now it is different. Kulsoom Nawaz is running, and Hamza Shahbaz and Shahbaz Sharif totally disappeared from the scene. In the end, the difference between a candidate of the ruling party and the opposition is marginal, right? In their home constituency. Then comes the 2018 elections. All of a sudden, Shahbaz Sharif has a chance of becoming PM, and then the Maryam Nawaz flank disappears. So you can see that there is something beside the good cop, bad cop thing. Otherwise, Shahbaz Sharif might have been a prime minister.
This is the basis, the point which you are addressing over it. That yes, there are people who say that okay, there is a conflict, but I've seen this thing that this could be a kind of a strategy, because the main decision lies with Mia Nawaz Sharif. I have talked to many of the responsible people in the PMLN, and few of them responded to me that till date, whatever Mr. Shahbaz Sharif is trying to convey to Mia Nawaz Sharif, reconciliation, the dialogue, or whatever he's trying to convince Mia Nawaz Sharif, till date, Mia Nawaz Sharif is not willing to on whatever Mia Shahbaz Sharif wishes to.
That actually shows you how this dynamic actually works.
Yeah.
That means the party is going to stay dysfunctional.
Yes.
Let us talk to the party itself. Rana Ehsan Afzal Saab, how do you actually propose that this, division within your party be overcome? Without that, of course, we are going to have a chaotic kind of outreach from your party.
Pitafi sir, firstly, I think, this narrative that there is some division in the party, or, we have been hearing this since the last many years, and it has not turned into reality. And let me assure you that it is not going to turn into reality. There is only one narrative, and that is the narrative of Mia Nawaz Sharif, which is followed by the party. And that narrative is built by the consensus of majority of the leaders of PMLN. So, that wish is not going to come true. And over here, what you saw was that in PDM, there was a clear, issue that People's Party off the discipline. They went to the PM for a leader of opposition seat, and there was an explanation which was demanded, and the matter stays there. No explanation was given, and People's Party and ANP left on their own will. When you talk about Shahbaz Sharif, he is the president of the party, and People's Party is still in the opposition, and there will be moments when again, we would like to work with People's Party, for example, during the finance bill, which is coming up, the coming budget. So obviously we can work together over there. So I think there is no confusion, and in the coming days, this narrative is going to be completely destroyed, that there is any division in the party.
Okay, you keep on saying that there is no division. I understand that it was Mia Nawaz Sharif who founded your party, and he, by virtue of that, actually has a veto. We are talking about the same family. But Shahbaz Sharif and Nawaz Sharif are two people from another generation. After them, can you actually tell us how does the chain of command work in your party? If both of them are not actually making policy, who does? The third person in the succession of decision making.
Sure. The Khan Abbasi, the ex-Prime Minister of Pakistan, he plays a vital role. There is Khwaja Asif, Asad Iqbal, Ishaq Khan, many other people, Rana Sanalla, Mr. Ismail, so they are the
No, but you are evading the question, sir.
All of them.
With due respect, you are evading the question.
The question is, simple.
The question is about Maryam and Nawaz.
Well, Maryam Nawaz has shown that she has the courage of a leader to take the narrative of Mia Nawaz Sharif to the streets and people responding to her. So obviously she is the future of the party. No one, I believe, in the party commands so much response from the public in Pakistan as she does.
Okay.
But
Right.
there are seniors, there are many leaders who are very senior to Maryam Nawaz and they have vital decision
Right.
making.
Rana Sahab, you have made all the points. But the reason why I was asking this question is because it seems that your outreach to any political party, may it be opposition or government, seems to be actually subject to this uncertainty who's calling shots. If Shehbaz Sharif Sahab makes policy, his approach is different. Maryam Sahib's approach is more aggressive and confrontational. Let me go to Kundi Sahab again. Kundi Sahab, your party has worked with both sides of the leadership in Pakistan Muslim League Nawaz. I'm talking about particularly PDM. Which one is more difficult to work with? Maryam Nawaz or Shehbaz Sharif?
A very interesting question. Let me clear first thing, when my colleague Abdullah Sahab was earlier commenting that during the when you asked him regarding the political consensus, he said that we have the national agenda. But let me clear one thing that is very much clear. Because of the emergence of the PTI from 2000 or after coming into the government, in Pakistan, unfortunately, after the government of the PTI, there is a lot of division, polarization has been emerged, and hatred and criticism below the belt, which we have already stopped or we have finished. That it goes to the Pakistan People's Party. From 2008, we have taken the government from the dictator, and from 2008 to 2013, we have shown that people of the Pakistan, the masses of the Pakistan, the political consensus in shape of 18th Amendment. We have invited all the political parties, either that was a right party or left party, that was religious party or national party. We bring all on the table and show the political consensus. And the major achievement of President Zardari, when we have shifted the one civilian government to the other civilian government in 2013, and that from 2013 and 2018, that is also a good period of political parties or strengthening of democracy, strengthening of institutions. But unfortunately, from 2018 to up till now, we are facing polarization, we are facing hatred in the society that was developed by the PTI, which is very unfortunate. Now, I come to your question.
Let me first actually stop you there and ask you about the two things that you just made, the points you made. 18th Amendment might be a big consensus item, but it was a consensus that was reached outside the Parliament. Inside the Parliament, if you can look at the minutes of parliamentary voting, there was hardly any debate at all. The second thing, you were talking about the transition, the first ever civilian to civilian transition. That was a huge accomplishment, and one should actually compliment your party. But with due respect, sir, your president, Asif Ali Zardari, the president at that time, was the first person to call the very same elections, the RO elections. So you automatically undermined your own accomplishments. Who's going to actually buy them?
First of all, I didn't agree with your comment that there is no debate on the parliament. Actually, the parliament is the stage, and the standing committees or the select committees or the special committees where the actual works has been done by the members. And you have seen that more than 100 articles has been amended or reshaped into the original position, and number of meetings has been conducted on this 18th Amendment, and which I have earlier mentioned. And all parties, either that party was a religious party, that was national party, or the right-wing party, or the left-wing party, all the representation of the political parties were in these historical document of 18th Amendment. And
you're talking about the special committees, right? My humble submission is that only elite or the chosen few actually go to the special committees. But the problem is, if I am a lawmaker and I am a backbencher, am I not allowed to actually raise my voice or actually raise my concerns? That didn't happen. You realize that it was actually passed overnight within a day.
That was not possible in days. Let me clear that when you represent political parties, when any member or the representative of political parties sit in a standing committee or work in a standing committee, he goes to his party or he goes to his party and bring and come with a consensus with his own party, because you can't make a consensus in such a large shape where you will bring all the political party representatives in the standing committee, because I think so. At that, I have earlier mentioned that democracy in Pakistan was very fragile and is fragile. We have worked very sensibly, included all the political parties, especially in 1990, and that document was very a historical document. We have reshaped the 1973 constitution, its original position, and that credit goes to Pakistan People's Party and its allies, all the allies. Because in Pakistan, I think it is very unfortunate that Pakistan political parties didn't build political consensus. And as far as I am concerned, I think the challenges which has been emerged at the time, the only solution is the political consensus among the parties. Never ever any party is capable to...
I get what you are saying, and it is admirable, but a starting point would be to build consensus within the parties, within each party, right? And then you're saying that the backbenchers, even if they don't have any voice in the process of passing a law, even then it actually represents parties. Well, that actually concerns me. But you were to actually answer my original question. Who is easier to work with, Shehbaz Sharif or Maryam Nawaz?
Very interesting question. Actually, I think, in my opinion, there is two type of line of action. One, within the parliament, you have a different course of action. And out of the parliament, when you address the public rallies or the protest or the public gatherings, that is a little bit different line of action. So I think working, if you ask me, so I think it's very difficult to answer that with whom working is comfortable. But I think there is two different way of protest. One within the parliament. As far as People's Party is concerned, we always stress or emphasize to struggle within the parliament, to avail all the opportunities which we can in the parliament, and we believe that.
So your answer is very diplomatic, and I am going to actually translate into reality that it is easier to work with Shehbaz Sharif, but because Maryam is very powerful and popular, I am not going to offend her. Let me come back to the studio.
It's your opinion, Farrukh. It's your opinion.
Barrister Abdullah Sahab, again, while we are talking about divisions within parties, what is going on with, advisor to the Prime Minister on accountability and this gentleman called Chauhan, and all this litigation is going on? Your own party members are calling each other or accusing them of not being Muslim. This kind of confrontation, if it goes on, where are we headed?
First of all, I have to say I also condemn Chauhan Saab for an immature interview which he gave to the press. There's absolutely no evidence that Shahzad Akbar Saab is Qadiani, and to come out with such a blatant statement of such a nature is it's against the law, and the law will take its course in this case.
Right, but Shahzad Akbar, he might be a citizen of this country, and that concern he has used against Chauhan. But with due respect, he is also a party member. He is with the party. So when is the party going to take action against this gentleman?
The party will be taking action. It will be serving a show cause notice upon Mr. Nazir Chauhan to explain himself as to what...
So how do you plan to woo the JKT group then?
Efforts are already underway. With the JKT group...
You realize that you are talking about two contradictions. On one side, you are going to confront somebody who that group actually thinks is pivotal, very important supporter.
I mean, Nazir Chauhan himself is not the JKT group. JKT group's interests are diametrically opposite to what Chauhan is trying to achieve. What Chauhan has said is like I said, is completely condemnable, and the law will take its course. With respect to the JKT group, this is nothing novel. In parties such as big as the PTI, there are always groups. And
every time JKT group meets, they say attack on one is attack on all. They say that interest of one is interest of all, although they always end up talking about one man, that is Jangir Tareen. But they think that if any person, any member of that group is attacked, they are going to actually, sever ties or do something else.
I'm pretty sure when I say this that the Tareen group is nothing novel, and efforts are already underway to accommodate Tareen group's concerns about the inquiry on the sugar report. As far as Chauhan Saab is concerned, Chauhan Saab, the one for all and all for one ethos does not apply to him. If someone breaks the law, that does not mean that a group of parliamentarians will support that person in breaking the law.
Really?
Yes.
Because that seems to be what is happening right now.
Mr. Tareen Saab's objective is that he wants to be dealt with fairly.
Jangir Tareen group is part of your party, is it not?
It is, indeed.
Okay. Have you, do you have any other example where a group within party appoints its own parliamentary leader?
Well, we can say...
What is he doing?
Raja Raj is also an MNA from PTI, and they have got a bit ahead of themselves in appointing parliamentary leaders, but I have to say they're still working under the PTI umbrella, and efforts are underway, significant efforts to ensure that Tareen Saab gets a fair hearing when it comes to his concerns, the addresser of his concerns. But again, this is nothing new. I mean, we've got another party, PLN, where we've got two different approaches. We've got a niece and an uncle who don't wish to be in the same room as each other.
Yeah, but your answers actually remind me of a friend of mine who once actually, while he was learning to drive, actually ended up, in a car crash, and he told us that whenever he crossed a crossover, right, at that time he would actually shut his eyes and leave it to the God's will. Are you not doing exactly that?
Oh, not at all. Everything we do is calculated, and we do it with a methodical precision to it. As far as the Tareen group is concerned, this is nothing novel in the history of Pakistan. PTI is a very big party. There's divisions that happen. I mean, even the People's Party, there's divisions. There's divisions with the leader, the son. I mean, it's nothing new. As far as we're concerned, we wish to see a progressive Pakistan. That is Prime Minister Imran Khan's vision.
Right. We started by actually talking about the unity of purpose in the country. We ended up talking about divisions among our own groups. But I'm told that we are left with 2 minutes. Right. So very quickly, Fareed Raisab, if you can give your conclusion, please do.
But as you said that you started from the consensus and you ended up with the division, it's very difficult for all the parties to have a political consensus right now, because within the party there are divides. So I think in near future it is very difficult to see a political consensus
right.
in the political area of Pakistan.
From optimism to total cynicism. Right. Let me ask Rana Ehsan Afzal Saab very quickly, sir, your conclusion as well. Rana Saab, can you hear me? Okay, there seems to be some difficulty. Let me ask Kundi Saab, your conclusion, sir, very quickly.
I think the political consensus is the only solution to our challenges and problems, and People's Party has already shown this consensus, and we can bring and we can table all
Kundi Saab, thank you very much. I have to be very quick.
Yes.
The rest is up. Very quick.
Yes, sir. PTI is always open. Our government is open to listen to the parties and debate a new charter of governance that can ensure a new and progressive Pakistan.
Right. Let us try to put you in some cabinet so that becomes an executive decision.
Inshallah.
But till that time, let us keep our fingers crossed. Do we have Rana Saab again? Right. There seems to be some disconnect, but let me thank all the guests who joined us, two in the studio, Pareez Rai Saab, Barrister Abdullah, thank you very much, sirs, for being part of the program, Rana Ahsan Afzal Saab, and Ahmed Kareem Kundi Sahiban, thank you very much, sir, for your precious time also. Viewers, there are divisions, and this is basically human nature, that everybody actually has his own world view, and then human beings are different from anything that actually is standardized. People have their own opinions, and that's why it's very difficult. And in a democracy, this is the messy side that actually contributes an image of messiness to any kind of democratic process. But then that also builds consensus and ownership of electoral process as well. What is important is to remember that each party has its fair share of doves and then hawks. If you don't want to actually engage in a dialogue, hawks will always keep on rising, and when hawks rise, usually the society keeps on losing. So it is important to start an engagement process. If you do that, all the right-minded people will always be elevated, and those who were hawks might actually start mending their ways as well. This was today's program. Thank you very much for watching us. Take care.